What if I told you that the strongest part of you is not the one you train, but the one you ignore? In a world that relentlessly teaches you to build armor, to thicken your skin, and to prepare for battle, the greatest secret is the discovery that your soul never needed a shield. It was born a fortress. This is not a promise of invincibility, but an invitation to a forgotten truth that deep within the noise of your life, beneath the scars of criticism and the weight of failure, there exists a core of consciousness, a silent, observing self that has never been touched by the chaos. It has been there all along, waiting for you to find your way back home. We are born into a storm. From our first breath, we are conditioned to react, to seek validation, to measure our worth by the reflections we see in the eyes of others. This external world, with its relentless demands and judgments, becomes the architect of our identity. We build ourselves out of borrowed materials, the praise of our peers, the expectations of our family, the hollow rewards of a society obsessed with metrics. And so we become fragile structures, perpetually trembling, fearing the slightest gust of wind, the smallest tremor of disapproval. We spend our entire lives guarding a house that was never truly ours, mistaking its vulnerability for our own, forgetting that we are not the house but the unshakable ground upon which it stands. Let us begin by acknowledging the wound, the sharp sting of betrayal, the hollow echo of failure, the subtle poison of a critical remark that replays itself in the silent hours of the night. You have felt it. It is a uniquely human ache, a feeling of being exposed, judged, and found wanting. We walk through life as if our very soul is a raw nerve, flinching at the slightest touch. We are taught to believe this is the price of living, the unavoidable tax on existence. But this core belief, this assumption that we are inherently fragile, is the foundational illusion. The suffering you feel does not originate from the world outside. It is an inside job, an intricate web of interpretation spun within the architecture of your own mind. The architect of this pain is a phantom self we mistake for the real thing, the ego. It is not your true consciousness, but a construct, a collage of memories, beliefs, and most importantly, the opinions of others. This is the self that is defined by its job title, its social status, its successes, and its failures. It is a ghost that feeds on validation and starves on criticism. When this fragile identity is threatened by a negative comment, a lost opportunity, a sense of being ignored, it screams in agony because it perceives an attack on its very existence. We suffer so intensely because we are defending a house of cards, desperately trying to protect a self that was never really us to begin with, a reflection assembled from the scattered shards of the external world. The ancient Stoics understood this fatal mechanism over 2,000 years ago. The philosopher Epictetus stated it with stark clarity. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. An event, in its pure form, is neutral. It is a raw, unprocessed fact. A criticism is merely a collection of words. A failure is simply an outcome that differed from your expectation. They are like a drop of clear water. The suffering, the emotional poison, is the judgment you add to it. It is the narrative you weave around the fact. The story that says, "This means I am worthless," or "My life is ruined." You are the one who adds the ink to the water, and then you lament how dark it has become. This self-inflicted poisoning happens because we have been taught to attach our sense of being to things that are fundamentally unstable. We chain our inner peace to the whims of the stock market, to the fleeting affection of a partner, to the number of likes on a post. We have fused the timeless, observing I with the temporary, chaotic me. Therefore, when the external object of our attachment is lost or damaged, we feel that a part of our very soul has been amputated. The agony is real, but its cause is a case of mistaken identity. The true self, that inner citadel of consciousness, was never attached. It was merely watching as you chose to place your anchor in the shifting sands of the outside world. Here, then, is the first profound revelation on this path. We must separate pain from suffering. Pain is the direct, physical, or emotional impact of an event. It is the sharp, clean cut of the knife. It is an inevitable part of a mortal existence, a signal from the body or the heart that something requires attention. Suffering, on the other hand, is the story we build around that pain. It is the rumination, the resentment, the self-pity, the fear that the pain will last forever. Suffering is the infection we cultivate in the wound through our own narrative. Pain is unavoidable, but suffering has always been a choice. And in the space created by that realization, you find the first key to unlocking the door to your untouchable soul. But what if the entire premise of our struggle is a lie? What if the constant, exhausting battle for self-worth is a game we were never meant to play? The journey we are about to embark on is not one of addition, but of subtraction. It is not about learning a new technique to deflect the world, but about unlearning a lifetime of conditioning that taught us we were vulnerable in the first place. We will journey into the heart of ancient philosophy and the depths of modern psychology, not for answers, but for the right questions. The goal is to find that silent, untouchable space within you, the part of you that watches the storm, but is not the storm, the part that is not afraid of the dark, because it is the source of its own light. If suffering is a choice, then how does one choose differently? The answer is not a modern invention. It is an ancient technology of the soul, a hardened operating system for the human mind, forged not in peaceful contemplation, but in the heart of the chaotic Roman Empire. It is called Stoicism. This was the personal philosophy of men who faced unimaginable pressure. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor ruling over plagues and endless wars. Epictetus, a man who went from being a slave to a revered teacher. Seneca, a statesman navigating the deadly politics of Nero's court. They did not have time for abstract theories. They needed a practical shield, a method for maintaining sanity and virtue while the world around them burned. At the very heart of this ancient shield lies a single revolutionary principle so simple it can be drawn in the sand: the dichotomy of control. The Stoics taught that the universe of your experience can be divided into two starkly different domains. The first contains everything that is truly yours: your thoughts, your judgments, your intentions, your will to act. This sphere is your absolute kingdom. The second domain contains everything else: your reputation, your health, your wealth, the way others behave, and the ultimate outcome of your efforts. This sphere is, and always will be, outside of your direct command. To find peace is to cease the insane and exhausting war of trying to control the uncontrollable. This principle is not an admission of defeat. It is the blueprint for your freedom. It is the design for an unbreachable fortress within your own mind, the inner citadel. Every time you correctly identify something as outside your control and choose not to be disturbed by it, you add another stone to these walls. Every time you focus your energy solely on the quality of your own actions and thoughts, you reinforce the gates. The world can lay siege to this fortress. It can strip you of your possessions, tarnish your reputation, and afflict your body. The legions of chaos and criticism can rage outside your walls, but they can never ever enter your citadel unless you, the sole commander, lower the drawbridge and invite them in. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote this for himself, not in a grand palace, but in a military tent on the cold frontiers of Germania. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. This is the true definition of power. It is not the brutish force of a tyrant who bends others to his will. It is the sublime, quiet sovereignty over the kingdom of your own consciousness. It is the recognition that while you might not command the winds and the waves of the external world, you are the absolute master of the ship's rudder, your response. True strength is an internal quality, an unwavering governance of the self in the face of external anarchy. It is here we must correct a great misunderstanding that has haunted this philosophy for centuries. The Stoic is not a passionless robot. The citadel is not a tomb. Stoicism does not advocate for the suppression of emotion. To feel anger, grief, or fear is not a failure. It is a human response. These are natural energies, like weather patterns passing through the sky of your mind. The goal is not to create a permanent, artificial sunshine by denying the existence of storms. The goal is to become an unshakable mountain. The winds will howl around you. The rains will lash against you, but they cannot move you. You feel the storm, you acknowledge its power, but you are not swept away by it. To achieve this, the Stoics identified what they called the hegemonikon, or the ruling faculty of the mind. You can think of it as your inner CEO, your observer self. This is the part of you that is pure awareness. It is the director sitting calmly in the theater of your mind, watching the dramatic play of your thoughts and emotions unfold on the stage. The actors, anger, fear, desire, joy, are passionate and convincing. They deliver their lines with great force. The untrained mind leaps onto the stage and identifies completely with the actor of the moment. The trained mind, the director, remains in the chair. It watches the play, understands its meaning, but never forgets that it is the watcher, not the performance. Imagine you are insulted in public. A flash of hot, red anger appears on your inner stage. This is the stimulus. The untrained person becomes the anger. They lash out, they defend their fragile ego. They are now a puppet controlled by the insulter. The Stoic practitioner, however, activates the director. The director sees the anger actor emerge and thinks, the script is calling for anger, an interesting choice. But then, from the citadel, the director chooses a different response. This person's words are external to me. Their judgment is not my reality. My character is defined by my actions, not their opinions. I will not grant this actor the stage. In that moment, the insult becomes powerless. This practice, this constant retreat to the director's chair, cultivates a sacred space. It is a moment of pure potential that exists between the external stimulus and your internal response. For most of humanity, this space is infinitesimally small, an unconscious, instantaneous reflex. Life pokes, and we react. The work of the philosopher is to widen this gap. The more you practice, the larger that space becomes. It might grow from a microsecond to a full second, and eventually into a vast expanse of calm deliberation. Within that space lies all of human freedom, the power to break the chains of conditioning and to choose who you will be in the face of any circumstance. And so, this inner citadel is not a static structure built of stone and mortar. It is a living fortress, a dynamic process. Its walls are not made of denial, but of vigilant questioning. Its guards are not emotions of anger or hatred, but principles of reason. At the gate of your mind, every impression that seeks entry must be challenged. When the thought "this is a catastrophe" arrives, the guard at the gate must ask with calm authority, is this truly a catastrophe, or simply my initial unexamined judgment about an event? What part of this is actually mine to control? This ceaseless, quiet interrogation of your own thoughts is the work. It is the daily training of the soul's sentinels. The ultimate power of this shield, then, is not what the world believes it to be. It is not the cold, hard, unfeeling shell of an emotionless man. It is the profound and liberating discovery that you are not your emotions at all. You are not the anger, the fear, or the despair. You are the silent, spacious, and indestructible awareness in which these feelings are allowed to arise, be witnessed, and pass away. This is the true meaning of becoming untouchable. It is not about building a wall to keep feelings out. It is about realizing that you are the vast, open space in which all feelings, all thoughts, and all storms can unfold without ever staining the sky. The Stoic citadel gives us mastery over our conscious reactions. But what happens when the threat is not a legion at the gates, but a traitor within the walls? What about the impulses that seem to erupt from nowhere, the sudden rages, the irrational fears, the acts of self-sabotage that we cannot explain? For this, we must leave the sunlit world of rational thought and descend into the psychological underworld. Our guide for this journey is not a philosopher king, but the pioneering psychologist Carl Jung. He understood that to build a truly impregnable fortress, we must first explore its dungeons, for that is where our deepest power lies hidden. Jung gave a name to the part of us that lives in these dungeons: the shadow. The shadow is the repository for everything we have disowned about ourselves. It is the dark sack into which we have thrown all the traits that our conscious ego deems unacceptable: our aggression, our vulnerability, our greed, our unholy desires, our weaknesses, our potential for cruelty. It is not necessarily evil, it is simply the other half of our full humanity. The parts of ourselves we were taught to be ashamed of by society, by family, or by our own quest for a pure self-image. It is the untamed wilderness that surrounds the tidy village of our conscious personality. We believe that by banishing these aspects to the darkness, we have defeated them. But Jung warned us of a terrifying psychological law: that which you resist persists. By denying the shadow, we do not destroy it. We grant it an autonomous and malevolent life of its own in the unconscious. It festers there, growing stronger in the dark, feeding on our denial. It then waits for moments when our conscious control is weakened by stress, by alcohol, by fatigue, and erupts. This is the source of the uncharacteristic outburst of rage, the inexplicable act of betrayal, the sudden wave of paralyzing depression. It is the monster in the dungeon, tired of its chains, breaking free. But the shadow has a far more subtle and insidious way of controlling us: projection. When we are unable or unwilling to see a certain trait in ourselves, our mind, in a desperate act of self-preservation, finds it in someone else. We project our own disowned darkness onto the world around us. This is why you feel an irrationally intense anger at an arrogant colleague. You are projecting your own repressed arrogance. It is why you feel a visceral contempt for someone you see as weak and pathetic. It is a reflection of the weakness you refuse to accept in yourself. The shadow makes the world a screen, and it forces you to watch a horror movie starring everyone else, when the monster is you. The people who trigger you most are therefore not your enemies. They are your mirrors. They are unwitting messengers from your own deep self, sent to deliver a crucial report about what you have locked in your dungeon. That intense, gut-level emotional reaction, that feeling of being hooked, is the evidence. It is your soul telling you, look, this thing you despise in them is a part of you that is crying out for attention. While a healthy mind can observe flaws in others with a degree of detachment, the shadow-possessed mind reacts with disproportionate moral outrage and obsessive hatred. The world stops being a collection of other people and becomes a hall of mirrors each one reflecting back a distorted piece of your own forgotten face. This is the secret mechanism behind our vulnerability to criticism. Why can one insult ruin your day, while another is easily brushed aside? A criticism only has power if it lands on a part of you that secretly believes it to be true. If someone calls you a failure, and deep within your shadow lies the terrified, unacknowledged child who believes they are a failure, the words will strike like a poisoned dart. They validate the monster's whispered accusations. However, if you have already faced that part of yourself, if you have acknowledged your fear of failure, the insult finds no fertile ground. It becomes mere noise, the meaningless opinion of an external entity. You cannot be wounded in a place where you have already healed yourself. The path to invulnerability, then, is not to build higher walls to keep the darkness out. It is to do the one thing we fear the most, to turn around, take the torch, and walk willingly into our own dungeon. The goal of this descent is not to slay the monster of the shadow. That would be to attempt to kill a part of yourself. The goal is integration. It is the act of radical self-acceptance. It means looking the beast in the eye and saying, "I see you. I know you are part of me. Your energy is my energy." This is the hero's journey, not to conquer the world, but to conquer the civil war raging within the self. Integration is the courageous and humbling admission, yes, that which I condemn in the world also exists in me. The capacity for foolishness, the potential for cruelty, the seed of arrogance, it is all there. By consciously owning these potentials, you rob them of their unconscious compulsive power. You can manage and channel the energy of a beast you have tamed and befriended. You are forever controlled by the one you deny. This act transforms the shadow from a saboteur into a source of immense power. The aggression becomes drive. The vulnerability becomes empathy. The darkness becomes a source of profound depth, creativity, and a more complete, authentic humanity. When you have owned your own shadow, the shadows of others can no longer touch you. Their projections have nothing to stick to. You cannot be shamed by an imperfection you have already embraced. You cannot be blackmailed by a secret you have already told yourself. The judgments of the world become like the weather report of a foreign country. Interesting, perhaps, but ultimately irrelevant to your state of being. You become untouchable, not because you are perfect, but because you are whole. You have withdrawn your own projections from the world, and in doing so, you have taken back the power you were giving away to everyone who pushed your buttons. So, I ask you, think of that person, that idea, that behavior that elicits a firestorm in your soul, the political opponent whose ignorance infuriates you, the celebrity whose arrogance makes your skin crawl, the family member whose victimhood drains you of all energy. Do not turn away, look closer. That intense reaction is a map, drawn in the ink of your own repressed soul. It is pointing you directly to a piece of yourself that you have abandoned. The greatest secret that Jung revealed is this: the path to becoming immune to the world's darkness begins with the courage to embrace your own. We have fortified the conscious mind with the logic of the Stoics and navigated the unconscious depths with the courage of a shadow worker. The citadel stands and its dungeons are understood. Now begins the true work, the sacred art practiced within the fortress walls. This is the final stage of our journey, the alchemy of perception. It is the understanding that reality is not a solid, fixed substance. It is a fluid, and our perception is the catalyst that can transform it. Here, we do not deflect the world or hide from it. We learn the secret art of transmuting its base metals, its poisons and its pains into the pure gold of unconquerable strength. The ultimate alchemical formula is known by two words: amor fati, the love of your fate. This is not the passive resignation of a victim, but the joyful and defiant embrace of everything that life presents. It is the powerful conviction that every event, especially the most painful and challenging ones, is not an obstacle to your path, but is the path itself. The Stoics touched upon it. Nietzsche perfected it. Do not just bear what is necessary, he urged, but love it. See every setback, every betrayal, every loss not as a punishment, but as a custom-designed workout for your soul, delivered by the universe to forge you into the person you are meant to become. This is the essence of transmutation. The alchemist does not curse the lead and wish it were gold. They take the lead as it is and apply the secret fire to transform it. The master of amor fati does not waste a single moment wishing for an easier past or a different set of circumstances. They look upon the broken pieces of their life, the failures, the heartbreaks, the wounds, and understand that these are the very materials needed for their great work. Like the kintsugi master, they do not hide the cracks, they illuminate them with gold. They transform the lead of their personal history into the gold of wisdom, resilience, and a beautiful, unbreakable character. Let us apply this alchemy to the poison of criticism. We have already learned how to build a citadel to protect ourselves from its sting. Now we go a step further. We learn how to profit from it, Within every insult, no matter how venomously delivered, there is the potential for data. The true alchemist of the mind develops the skill to separate the emotional poison of the delivery from the potentially valuable information it contains. They ask one simple question: is there any truth here that I can use? The attack is ignored, but the message, however distorted, is analyzed for strategic advantage. Criticism ceases to be a weapon against you and becomes a free consultation service. Imagine you are publicly humiliated for a mistake at work. The common reaction is a toxic brew of shame, anger, and resentment directed at the person who exposed you. The Stoic reaction is to maintain internal calm, recognizing the event is external, but the alchemical reaction is to see the entire event as a gift. The humiliation is the fire that burns away your ego's attachment to perfection. The mistake itself is a lesson of unparalleled clarity, and the person who humiliated you, they become your unwitting and most effective teacher. You transform the venomous sting of shame into the potent antidote of self-improvement. This same alchemy must be applied to our emotions, specifically through the practice of detachment. This is not the cold, dead detachment of apathy. It is the focused, vibrant, and powerful detachment of the master craftsman. Think of a surgeon performing a life or death operation. She is not detached because she doesn't care. She is detached precisely because she cares so deeply. Her emotional investment in the patient's life is so absolute that she cannot afford the luxury of fear or a trembling hand. This is the state we seek, a profound care for our actions, combined with a serene release of our attachment to the results. When you can truly detach from outcomes, from whether you get the promotion, whether they love you back, whether your art is praised, you are finally free to perform with pure, unhindered excellence. The desperate, needy energy that sabotages so many of our efforts dissolves. You pour your entire soul into the process, into the work itself, because that is the only domain you control. You can write the best book you are capable of writing, liberated from the crippling fear of bad reviews. You can love a person with your whole heart, free from the terror that they might leave. Your actions become a form of art, an end in themselves, not a means to a desperate end. Do you feel the shift? Stoicism, shadow work, amor fati, these are not intellectual curiosities to be understood. They are not beliefs to be adopted. They are disciplines to be practiced. They are the daily, hourly, moment-by-moment work of the alchemist at the forge of his own consciousness. This is the path to the untouchable self. It is not a destination you arrive at, a permanent state of bliss you achieve once and for all. It is not a secret that, once learned, protects you forever. The peace is not in the destination. The power is not in the knowledge. The secret, the true gold, lies in the practice itself. You have journeyed through the fortresses of reason and the dungeons of the soul. You have learned the formulas of ancient alchemy, and now you have arrived here at the heart of the mystery, waiting for the final secret to be unveiled, the one piece of hidden knowledge that will make everything click, the master key that will unlock the untouchable self. So I must be honest with you, I have brought you here under a false premise, the search for a secret technique, a final answer, a magical shield that you can acquire from the outside. That search is the final prison. It is the ego's last and most subtle trick to keep you looking everywhere except the only place the power has ever been. So here is the secret. It is not a thing to be learned, but an act to be performed. The untouchable self is not a fortress you build, but a choice you make. It is not a state you achieve, but a sovereign power you claim. This power is exercised in that sacred, silent space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. It is claimed in the moment you are betrayed, and you choose to learn from the pain rather than marinate in the bitterness. It is claimed when you are consumed by fear, and you choose to observe the feeling instead of becoming its slave. The secret is not a noun, it is a verb. It is the act of choosing, again and again. This choice is not a grand, dramatic, once-in-a-lifetime decision made on a mountaintop. It is a relentless, moment-by-moment practice enacted in the unglamorous trenches of your daily life. It is the choice you make when you are cut off in traffic, and you consciously release the surge of rage. It is the choice you make when you receive criticism, and you decide to mine it for data instead of ego defense. It is the choice you make when your heart is broken, and you resolve to become more compassionate rather than more cynical. This choice is presented to you 100 times a day, in every frustration, in every interaction, in every thought. Who are you? Right now, and now, and now. The Stoics, Jung, Nietzsche, all the guides we have consulted on this journey, they can only provide you with a map of the territory. They can point out the landmarks, warn you of the dangers, and suggest a potential path, but they cannot walk it for you. No video, no book, no guru, no therapist can perform the act of choosing for you. At this moment, the training ends, and the true work begins. The terrifying and exhilarating truth is that the responsibility is, and always has been, entirely yours. You must take your eyes off the map and take the first step. The power was never in the ancient scrolls. It was in your own 2 feet. This is the true definition of personal sovereignty. It is the profound realization that you are the sole and absolute ruler of the inner kingdom of your mind. You are the only one who can decide which thoughts are granted citizenship and which are exiled. You are the one who writes the laws of interpretation. You are the judge who presides over the tribunal of your emotions. For your entire life, you may have let this kingdom be run by tyrants, the opinions of others, your own impulsive reactions, the chaotic whims of external events. The climax of this journey is the moment you stage a quiet coup and peacefully, decisively take back your own throne. Do not be mistaken. The world will not suddenly become gentler because you have had this realization. The critics will not fall silent. The storms will not cease. The chaos of human affairs will continue to rage. The promise was never a quiet world, but a quiet center within you. The ultimate test is not whether you can prevent the fire from starting. It is whether you can be the one calm, unshakable presence in the middle of the inferno. The question life asks is not, can you stop the waves? It is, can you learn to surf? The final power is not to control the world, but to ensure that the world can no longer control you. And so, the search is over. You came seeking a secret shield to protect you from the world, and you leave with something far more potent, the knowledge that you never needed one. You are the source of your own sanctuary. The alchemical gold was never an external substance to be found. It was the act of transmutation itself. There is no hidden doctrine. There is no final initiation. There is only the raw, untamed present moment, and the power, which has been yours all along, to choose who you will be within it. The secret is that there is no secret. There is only the practice. So what does this life look like? What is the daily experience of the one who has taken back their inner throne? It is not a life of constant joy or boisterous victory. It is, instead, a life of profound and resonant silence. Not the empty silence of absence, but the rich, full silence of a deeply centered presence. It is the quiet hum of an engine running perfectly, a foundation that no longer trembles with every passing footstep. This is the silence of the strong, a peace that does not need to announce itself, for it is the very ground upon which their entire being rests. It is the calm that emanates from a soul that is finally at home with itself. The strength that grows from this soil is unlike any other. It is a force without aggression, a power without dominance. It is the unshakable calm of a mountain, which does not need to prove its resilience to the wind. This individual possesses a gentleness that cannot be mistaken for weakness, and a resolve that has no need for anger. They move through the world with a purpose that is not frantic and a compassion that is not conditional. They have faced their own inner demons, and in doing so, have lost the need to create demons out of others. Their strength is not in their armor, but in their absolute refusal to go to war with themselves any longer. This is the ultimate freedom. The truly untouchable person is not the one who wins every argument or conquers every adversary. It is the one who can no longer be baited into a battle that does not serve their inner purpose. Their peace of mind is no longer held hostage, no longer up for negotiation in exchange for a promotion, for social approval, or for being proven right. By generating their self-worth internally, they have rendered the external marketplace of judgment completely bankrupt. They are free not because they have no chains, but because they alone hold the key to the ones that matter. They choose their struggles with the wisdom of a king. From the fragile ego mistaking itself for the self, to the unbreakable citadel of a reasoned mind, from the disowned shadow in the dungeon, to the alchemical fire that transmutes pain into wisdom. This has been the path. A journey not to become a god, invincible and unfeeling, but to become radically and completely human. It is the courage to embrace your inherent contradictions, to feel the sharp sting of pain without the lingering poison of suffering, to own your darkness as a source of strength, and to find liberation not by shackling the world, but by unchaining yourself. The untouchable soul is not a perfect soul. It is a whole soul. The world will continue to scream. The chaos will not abate. The sirens of distraction and fear will blare on. The question was never how to silence the noise around you. The only question that has ever mattered is this: will you finally choose to listen to the one voice that speaks in the silence underneath it all, your own? What is it telling you right now, in this quiet moment?